Have you ever wondered why some people over 50 still command attention, while others seem to disappear? It's not about how young you look. It's not the grey hair or the crow's feet. It's your presence, your energy, the way you carry yourself. Most men don't even realize they've slipped into the background until it's too late. But what if one small shift could flip the script completely? Stick with me, because by the end I'll show you one powerful change that could transform how people see you for good. Let me introduce you to Paulo. He was once full of life, curious, passionate, always moving forward, but somewhere along the way the spark dimmed. Same mornings, same silence, same empty seat at breakfast, until a moment, an unexpected encounter, woke him up, and in that instant everything began to change. Paulo's life had become predictable, safe, but somewhere along the way, that safety turned into stagnation. He followed the same morning routine, wore the same clothes, and took the same walk through the neighborhood. The faces he passed barely acknowledged him, and after a while he stopped expecting them to. At first it didn't bother him. He convinced himself that routine was good, that predictability brought comfort. But as the days blended together, that comfort started feeling like a cage. He wasn't unhappy exactly, he just wasn't anything. Life was happening around him, but not to him. It wasn't just the routine, it was the way he felt inside. The energy he once had, the confidence, the curiosity for life, had all dulled. He avoided mirrors because he didn't want to see what time had done to him. His posture had changed, shoulders slightly hunched, movements slower, his presence shrinking. He didn't command attention anymore, not because of age, but because he carried himself like a man who had already decided his best years were behind him. He didn't even realize it was happening. It wasn't like some switch flipped overnight. It was gradual, a slow fade. First, he stopped making plans, preferring the predictability of home. Then, social invitations became fewer, and he told himself he didn't mind. Eventually, even the way people looked at him changed, or maybe they just stopped looking. And the worst part, he accepted it. Maybe this was just what happened when you got older. Maybe excitement, connection, and attraction were things for younger men. That's what he told himself. That's what made it easier to accept the slow fade into the background. But deep down he felt a whisper of frustration, a tiny nagging voice that said, "This isn't it. This isn't all there is." He ignored it at first, pushed it aside. But that voice didn't go away. And then, one ordinary afternoon, Paulo met Clara. She was vibrant, engaging, and full of life, not just in the way she spoke, but in how she carried herself. Paulo noticed that people seemed drawn to her energy. But what shocked him the most? She noticed him. It had been a long time since someone really looked at him, acknowledged him in a way that made him feel seen, and it wasn't pity or politeness. It was curiosity, interest. Like she knew something about him that he didn't yet see himself. She wasn't some young woman looking for attention. She was confident, intelligent, and comfortable in her own skin. She had a presence that turned heads, not because she demanded attention, but because she carried herself like she belonged wherever she was. Paulo watched how she interacted with the world, how she listened intently, how she made others feel seen, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of something different. "The way you see yourself determines how the world sees you," she told him one evening over coffee. Paulo laughed it off, brushing it aside as some feel-good nonsense. But Clara wasn't joking. She leaned in slightly, her gaze steady. "If you walked into a room full of strangers right now, what would they notice first? Your age or your presence?" The question hung in the air between them. Paulo opened his mouth to answer, but hesitated. He had never thought about it like that before. Would they see an older man, someone fading into the background? Or would they see something else, something more? It made him think hard. And for the first time, he realized that he had let himself disappear, not because of his age, but because of how he carried himself. He had been walking, talking, and existing, like a man who had already accepted that his prime was behind him, and Clara saw right through it. "You don't need to be younger," she said, tilting her head slightly. "You need to be more alive." That one sentence hit him like a lightning bolt, because deep down he knew she was right. He had been moving through life like a man who had already decided his best years were behind him, and that belief had shaped everything, the way he spoke, the way he walked, the way others responded to him. And so, for the first time in years, Paulo was willing to listen. Paulo didn't wake up the next day as a different man. Change wasn't instant, but he started small. At first, the changes felt almost insignificant, but Clara had told him something that stuck with him. Every small change sends a signal, to yourself and to the world, about who you are becoming. So he listened, he adjusted, and with each small step, something inside him started to awaken, posture and presence. He straightened his back. It felt strange at first, almost forced, but then he noticed something. When he carried himself differently, people responded differently. "Walk like a man who owns his space," Clara reminded him. So he did. He made a habit of standing taller, keeping his shoulders back, walking with a sense of purpose rather than shuffling through life unnoticed. Reigniting curiosity. Instead of assuming he had nothing new to learn, Paulo started paying attention again. He began asking questions, not just in conversations, but about the world around him. He read books on topics he had ignored for years, listened to music he hadn't heard in decades, and struck up conversations with strangers, and something remarkable happened. People engaged back. He was no longer just an observer. He was participating in life again, breaking the routine. Routine wasn't bad, but it had become a trap. So Paulo started breaking out of it. He took a different route on his morning walk. He sat in a new cafe and ordered something unfamiliar. He went to places he hadn't been in years. These weren't drastic changes, but each small shift added something new to his world. New sights, new smells, new conversations, health and energy. It wasn't about looking younger. That wasn't the goal, but feeling stronger, that was something he could control. Paulo started stretching in the morning. He moved his body more, took deeper breaths, and began choosing food that made him feel good rather than just full. It wasn't about going back in time. It was about making the most of the time he had now, and the most unexpected thing. He started enjoying it, and then something unexpected happened. Paulo noticed how people began to look at him differently. Strangers engaged in conversation. Shopkeepers greeted him warmly. A woman in line at the grocery store smiled at him, and instead of looking away, he smiled back. Women, younger and older, noticed him, not because he had suddenly become a different man, but because he carried himself differently. He exuded something intangible, an energy, a presence, a quiet confidence. For the first time in years, Paulo felt seen, not as an aging man, not as someone who blended into the background, but as a person who was present, engaged, and alive. That shift wasn't just about how others saw him, it was about how he saw himself, and that changed everything. One evening, Paulo and Clara were sitting at a cafe. The atmosphere was lively, filled with soft conversations and the occasional clink of coffee cups against saucers. Paulo was relaxed, present, and engaged in their conversation when something happened that he hadn't even considered before. A younger woman at a nearby table glanced at him, then looked away with a small smile. Paulo barely registered it, but Clara did. "Did you see that?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, a knowing look in her eyes. "See what?" Paulo frowned, sipping his coffee. "She noticed you." Clara's voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable emphasis on the words. Paulo chuckled, shaking his head. "Come on, Clara." She was probably looking at something behind me. "No, Paulo." Clara leaned in, her eyes locked onto his. She noticed. "You not because of your age, not because of anything flashy, but because confidence is attractive at any age. And you, my friend, are starting to glow." It hit him then, like a slow wave rolling over him. He hadn't even considered the idea that someone might find him intriguing again. Not in that way, but the truth was, he felt different, lighter, more aware of himself and his surroundings. He wasn't second-guessing himself. He wasn't shrinking into the background. He was simply there, and people, women included, could feel that. It wasn't about seducing younger women. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about rediscovering the power of presence, the way a man carries himself when he knows his value, when he's engaged with life, when he moves with purpose. That energy was magnetic. It had nothing to do with wrinkles or hair color or age. It had everything to do with being fully alive. For the first time in years, Paulo wasn't just existing. He was present. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you felt truly seen? Not just by others, but by yourself. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and saw more than just a man going through the motions? More than just someone stuck in routine, waiting for life to happen? Because here's the truth, life isn't waiting for you. If you're tired of feeling like time is slipping away, if you're done wondering if your best days are behind you, then it's time to make a change. But not a massive, overwhelming change. Just one small shift. You don't need permission to change. You don't need a miracle. You don't need someone else to tell you it's okay to start living again. The only thing you need is a choice. The choice to start now. Try this. One small shift today. Stand taller, uncross your arms, make eye contact when you speak. Smile, not to be polite, but because you mean it. Ask a new question. Try something different. Take a new route home. Compliment a stranger. Engage in a conversation you'd normally avoid. Do something, anything, that disrupts the routine. And then, just watch what happens. Because the moment you decide to stop moving through life unnoticed, the world will start to notice you again. You might feel a little ridiculous at first. That's okay. Change always feels strange in the beginning. But here's what you'll find. People will respond to you differently. The energy you give off will shift, and the best part, you will feel it. That presence, that confidence, that engagement with the world, it's already inside you. You're just waking it up again. So, here's what I want you to do. If this message speaks to you, drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one small shift you can make today? Something simple, something real. Let's start a conversation, because conversations lead to action. And action leads to transformation. And if you found value in this message, give this video a thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, because the more we share, the more we inspire. And the more we inspire, the more lives we change, starting with our own. Because the world still wants to see you. You just have to step forward.